Yesterday was really interesting. This is something I want to share with you around parenting. I'm a mother of three. And oh, by the way, this is Monique here at MoniqueConnor.com. I always forget to do that, but you guys know who I am. Anyway, I wanted to tell you that parenting has been my greatest joy in life, I think, aside from getting to know God in a much, much deeper way. I would say parenting has been a great, great, great joy of mine. One of my, what I would consider major accomplishments is giving birth to my children and raising them. But it's interesting because I've always been very ambitious. And so I want to share with you today just, my philosophy on parenting and just some things I've come to learn. I think that we don't have to worry about our children as much as we do. I know I spent a lot of years in the state of worry, and I use the word in its very literal sense, worry, and I don't like that word for what it means. To me, worrying connotates that I am separated from God, and I don't believe and I don't have faith that things will work out, whatever it is I'm worrying or lamenting on. So, but I spent many years before I came to this realization, many, many years in a state of worry. I have a daughter that was diagnosed with autism when she was a year and a half. And I was one of those parents where, back then, there wasn't very much information, if at all, on the internet around it because the internet was still kind of new. And so the information that did exist was sort of like continuing the story of it, keeping it current, keeping you, in the thick of it. And I just wasn't in the mental state of mind to do that. My state of mind was to recover her, progress her, move her out of this thing. And so I spent my years doing just that with her. And so as I think about it, there was dealing with that, but also just dealing with the reality of raising young Black men. I have two young sons, and so had two young sons. And so I lamented over that. I worried over, when they went out. But as I look back now, I realize that there's worry and then there is a deep, abiding trust and faith that things will be okay. You see, I'm now learning that when you are familiar with what your core is, who you are at your core, there's no need for you to work hard at being you. You just have to get good at being you. But in terms of working hard, in terms of worrying about how your child's going to turn out and who they're going to be in the world, I found that my work, me and my husband's work as parents, was more or less modeling the best example we could to them, and also just expecting them to do their very best with who they are. So, like, for example, I went to engineering school, as you all know. It took me 7 years to get through it. I didn't take a break or anything, and I got mostly C's. So, not very encouraging for someone who's quite ambitious like I am. But as I look back, I realized I really wanted to study something else. Had I studied something else like psychology, which is what I wanted to study, all my electives was in that field. I got all A's. So the point is, I learned from that lesson, instead of me pushing them into what I think they ought to be, I learned along the way to allow them to become who God called them to be. And it's a very different experience. On the one hand was major worry, frustration, fear, nervousness, anger and yelling in the home if things was outside of what my expectations were. Whereas on the other hand, when I learned to let go and when I learned to just watch and see who they really were and learn them, there was so much more ease, so much more joy in the home, and so much more satisfaction in who they are and who they continue to become. So I've learned that I can speak very lovingly about them and speak the truth about them and where they are in life, because I also know that God's got them. Just like God's got me. I wanted to study psychology. My dad said, no, study the sciences. I studied the sciences and I'm still ending up in the realm of psychology by way of coaching. So that lesson, how my life turned out, same thing with my husband, same thing. how my life has turned out, how my husband's life has turned out in terms of what we gravitated to anyway, was actually who we are and what we're called to do. And so I promised myself I'm not going to get in the way of what God is doing in my kids' life. So for those of you that are parents, if you're a parent, then I humbly, invite you to think about taking the approach from a place of ease with respect to raising your children, and just learn to relax more and have fun with them. You still have boundaries, you still have the come in by a certain time. For us, it was no sleeping over people's homes. You still have your boundaries, but when it comes to what they're going to study in school and who they're going to be when they grow up, I found that that's something is not necessarily we can control, because at the end of the day, if they're miserable at what they do, but they're making a lot of money, which was me, I can tell you, that led me to sickness. That led me to my body actually breaking down, where I got to a point where I had adrenal fatigue. Um, and I still am learning how to relax and take naps up until this day from that. So I'm only urging you to think about what it is that you're instilling in your children. Are they okay with coming to you and talking with you around what's going on in their life? Or do they leave you out of situations? Are they sneaking around with their social media? Or can you guys talk about it openly? I mean, this is vital. And I found, we have an open situation in our home where we talk about things, and we've got rituals in place, and things that we do as a family that is just us. And, I know it's pretty grounding because, they go into their social media world and they go outside and they get into whatever they get into. And I've learned I cannot control what they do once they leave my home, once they're outside the door. I don't control their actions. So I try my best to train them in a way where they know that they're loved, they know that they're valued, and that no matter what happens out there, they can always come home to love. They can always come home to a place where people will listen to them. And I find that creates leadership. That creates confident people who, if they're called to leadership, can step confidently into their leadership. I find that creates a high self-esteem in a person. I find that creates young adults who are comfortable with who they are, and stepping into their roles in life, whatever they are. So I just invite you to think about what it is that you're still instilling in your children, and think about your relationship with God, and developing a level of faith around how your children are going to turn out, because a lemon seed can only become a lemon tree. And no matter how hard we try to make it become an orange tree, it just won't. It will sprout lemons. Or same thing with an apple seed. An apple seed can only produce apple trees that produce more apples. So I take the position of, let me see, who my children really are, what they're here to become, and then let me help them. Let me put them in a situation where they can succeed at that. And that has worked. And just back to my daughter, she's doing beautifully. And I used to tell her every single day of her life, you're going to touch the world, you're going to speak all over the place. And this is a girl who was nonverbal for many years. And she just came back from her first leadership conference, and she just got an invitation to speak at a school district this week. Her first speaking engagement. And guess what? She was out practicing speaking yesterday. I videotaped her, and we didn't even know she was going to get invited to go speak. So your words matter. What you believe about yourself, what you believe about your children, absolutely matters. And so I invite you to take a look at that. All right? God bless you. Check out my website. If you love this resonated with you, subscribe and share this with your very best girlfriends. All right? God bless you. See you again. Bye-bye.